Simple Sports back with another episode. So a lot of stuff I want to talk about today. A couple different things. Want to bounce around a little bit. Really quickly though, um, I want to talk about the NCAA tournament. Put out a video recently talking about NCAA and all its issues and how to fix it. And another video previously kind of touching on the same thing, a little more broad scope. But at the end of the day, I mean, listen, I love sports and I love the NCAA tournament. I used to love NCAA basketball as a whole as much as I love the tournament, but as I said in my last video and explained in my last video, that love has dwindled quite a lot. I do watch a few teams. I've been a UNC fan my whole life. Um, I just, again, I wasn't sports where I was from. It's not a big thing, and so the teams I watched and followed are the teams that I pretty much saw first, and UNC were one of those teams. Was one of those teams. Um, so anyway, point being, I still like college basketball. I don't pay much attention to it outside of a few teams until we get to the NCAA tournament, and it's coming around. Actually, some of the playing games are tomorrow, but the big thing kicks off on Thursday. Um, I I think the NCAA tournament has become who has the best coach and the best one, maybe sometimes two players, but definitely the best player on the court has to be on your team on every given night. And so you start looking around the team selected, and I mean, you have to go with the usuals, right? The Michigan States. I mean, Michigan State, Duke, Nova, UNC, um, Arizona, teams like that. You expect one or two of those teams to be there, regardless of where you may fall on the spectrum. You kind of expect one or two of those teams to be there, just because they have the best coaches, they have the best players, they have the best systems, they have all of that stuff, right? So you just kind of expect one of them to be there. And I think I don't know who's going to win it. I don't really have a prediction on that. It's just too difficult. I guess if I had to pick one, I'd go with the best coach, best player. But I don't know, man. I mean, Aiton is a monster. I love watching him play. I watched Trey Young, but I don't know how I feel about him yet. I can't quite pinpoint how I feel about him yet. So I'm gonna hold off my opinion on him. But I mean, I mean, he's fun to watch for sure. I don't think anyone can deny that. Um, and a bunch of the other guys, but I don't know. I don't really know if I could pick a team. Um, I'd love for UNC to win it, obviously, but I'm not that into college basketball as I am like the NFL and NBA. So we'll see how it goes. It's definitely gonna be fun. I will talk about it as we get down to like the Elite Eight, maybe the Sweet 16, once it condenses and we kind of see who's who and what's what for the most part. So I'll get back into it then, but I'm pretty pumped about it for sure. Um, I love sporting events, and this is one of the best of them. And for the next month, I have something to really get into. So should be fun. Now, let's get on with what we have on the agenda for today. So, the first thing I want to talk about is Odell Beckham Jr. One of my favorite players, period, in the league. One of my favorite players ever. And yes, I say that this early in his career just because, I mean, I he's one of those guys when he's playing, I want to watch the game, period. I don't want to miss anything. So he's definitely one of my favorite players. There's a lot of them on that list, but he's one of my favorites for sure. Dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? Listen, I don't know the circumstances. I don't really know what's going on. Don't care to know. Doesn't what because what I'm about to say doesn't it won't affect that one bit. Trust me. I don't care what the circumstances were. Hey, if that's what he does, you do your thing, man. I don't judge. If that's not what he does, and again, you do your thing. It doesn't matter to me. But for the sake of the business and what people may expect of you, it doesn't matter what you think. If you don't work for yourself, you don't get to do exactly what you want to do sometimes. And more importantly, I should say you can, but you also should know what the consequences could be, whether good or bad, fair or unfair, just or unjust. You have to be aware of what the consequences will be. Now, if they're good and you want to roll with it, fine. But if you know that they could be bad and you roll with it, don't be surprised when it turns out bad. This is just one of those things, you just got to be more careful. Doesn't matter how you feel about what he's doing or not doing, who's to say? You never know. You don't know the truth. We weren't in the room. But regardless, you have to know how it's going to look to others. You have to know how it's going to affect a lot of different things. And there are some decisions you just need to not make, period. If you want to avoid what scrutiny may come with it, then the only way to avoid it is to simply, the only way to guarantee yourself that you can avoid it, I should say, is to simply not do it. Do something different. And this one, I mean, listen, I hope it's nothing serious. I hope that's not, I mean, I hope he's not like a drug addict. I don't think that is the case, but you still, again, you never know. I don't hope that's the case because, again, he's one of my favorite players. I want to see him do very, very well. So, just for those people out there saying, well, leave him alone, he's in his off time. Yeah, I get that. And like I said, I don't care. It doesn't bother me personally, but you just have to be aware of what can happen if you're seen doing things like that. That's it. So I wish him well. I hope, I mean, I say I wish him well, like this is the end of the world. Listen, it's not the end of the world. At least I don't think so. All I'm saying is, I want him to do very well.
But you never know how people are going to react to it. Even the people that pay you, they may totally not care, or they may decide to come down extremely hard, and it could fall anywhere in between there. But you don't know that. But if you do something and that is a potential consequence, then it is on you to understand that. And what comes after it is what it is. So I just hope it isn't anything serious. I hope it doesn't turn into anything serious. I hope it doesn't deter the Giants from giving him his contract. If indeed, it isn't as serious as it may appear. Bottom line is I hope he does well regardless still, because I personally think he's the best receiver in football, but that's just me. I just hope this doesn't derail anything on the path for Odell, because he's on a great one for sure, but this isn't a way to get there. It's a little bit of a detour. 2 years before your contract year, you go on the boat trip, and then last year, heading into your contract year, you are hurt and can't play. No fault of your own, obviously. Injuries happen, but injuries nonetheless means you aren't playing. And so if you are going to turn into a distraction, which I'm not necessarily saying you are, but if they see you as a distraction and you are hurt, I mean, that nothing about that is good. Either way you look at it, nothing about that is good. So then you come into this year, into this off season, and you have this happen. You put yourself in harm's way with someone that you met before at a nightclub. Supposedly, I don't know the whole story behind how they actually met, but regardless, you met this person and you were comfortable enough to let them into your life, into your hotel room or their hotel room, whoever room it was, on camera, clear as day, with what appears to be drugs, and you're being filmed, I would assume you're aware you're being filmed. You don't seem to be opposed to it or unaware of it. You seem to kind of look at the camera, but who knows? You never know. You just gotta, you gotta make a better decision than that, I think. I mean, I'm no moralist. I'm not here to be a life coach. Like I don't proclaim to know everything about life, but from a business perspective, like, you got to make a better decision than that. But it is what it is. Hopefully it doesn't turn into anything serious. I just hope he sees the rock bottom before he hits rock bottom. So let's move on to the NBA. Cavs and Lakers played last night. Lakers won convincingly. Cavs dropped another game, obviously. They had some injuries, but everyone has injuries, so no excuses there. Now, I will say it's a little bit different in NBA. NFL, I don't think there's any excuse for injury. You have to build your team to win. Case in point, Super Bowl champions this year lost their starting quarterback and were still built well enough as a team to go win the Super Bowl. So injuries, to me, aren't much to talk about. But I think it's a little bit different in the NBA because you play more games and therefore injuries can affect you for longer periods of time. And there's a certain chemistry to having a smaller team that you need to build and having trades and things of that nature. And then you have new people come in that you also haven't played with on top of being out because of injury. Could cause some problems. So I get that. But I don't see any way the Cavs are competing for a title playing the way they are playing, defensively especially. Lonzo didn't shoot the ball well. Whatever. They beat the Cavs. He doesn't seem to care about stats. I don't particularly care about stats. I do to a certain degree, but they don't tell the whole story for me. Listen, he just had a bad shooting night, really. That's what it looked like to me. I don't see much outside of that. It happens to the best of them. Now, he had a terrible shooting night for sure. And it can't continue because he was actually shooting the ball really well. But he's a rookie. I don't go crazy. But what I do go crazy about is Cleveland and their defense. It is terrible. Julius Randle was out of his mind. 36 points. I think he had 14 boards and 7 assists. I love Julius Randle. He's nasty. And I like it because that's the way I play. Even though, I play at the gym at high school or something like that. But that's the way I play. Those are the type of players I really like. And I love him. I don't know what they're going to do with him in regards to next year. We'll see how that goes. 'Cause he's going to need some money. But he went off. I think they had 4 players over 20 points. IT had 20, 24, something like that. Somewhere in that neighborhood. I really like him coming off the bench, too. I don't know how that's going to play in the next year. I don't think that's going to fly. But as I said before, I like him coming off the bench. I just don't want him to be the starter. That one scares me a little bit. Yeah, so they had KCP, IT, Brook Lopez, and Julius all over 20 points. Kuzma had 14 and 10, which is obviously still really good. The Cavs just can't play defense. It's that simple. I don't know if they're just holding on to the playoffs like they did last year, then great, but I don't believe that is the case. I felt like that was the case last year. I mean, I think everyone did. I think you could sense it last year. Because there were certain teams that they come out and they just said, okay, we're going to stomp you so you know that you can't beat us. And then for the rest of the year, we're just going to kind of coast. They were still terrible defensively, but you still had the sense that they were going to hit that switch in the playoffs and off we go. And that's exactly what they did. And I don't have that feeling this year. I don't. I don't think that they are a lock to get out of the East. A lot of people do. I did just by benefit of the doubt when they made the trades and after the first couple of games, gave them the benefit of the doubt and said, okay, they'll make it out of the East. And yet nothing's really changed about the team other than the names and faces. They were scoring points before, albeit in a different way, but they were still managing to put up points. LeBron still managed to do great. They just couldn't play defense. They traded for 4 new guys, and now they can still score. The offense looks fairly fluid. It gets pretty stagnant at times, but it did that before as well. And they still can't play defense. I don't see what's changed. And now instead of a guy that you potentially could have gotten 20, 25 points out of fairly consistently in IT, as he started to pick things up, you never know if he was actually on the right track and he just happened to hit it in LA, or if he was actually just not a good fit for Cleveland. My guess is the latter. Either way, it looks like the same team to me with just different players in the jerseys, except for LeBron. Kevin Love is not in. He's hurt. So we'll see how that changes. But again, to me, that seems to be a negative because you're trying to fit your second best player back into the rotation with a bunch of guys that he hasn't played with, for one. And for two, he's been out for, 6 weeks or going to be 6 weeks total, something like that. That could be difficult to get ready on the fly. And there's not a lot of time to do it. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but they appear to only have one other guy that's giving them 15 plus a night, and he's not playing. Kevin Love. The rest of those guys occasionally get you 20, 25, but are they going to give you 20 points every night? No. Not even, I mean, you might get 12 to 14 consistently. Is that enough? Now, if you can get that consistently from everybody, or the guys that they acquired, then that might be enough to get out of the East. It's not going to beat Golden State, who I think is coming out of the West. I think they just hit a speed bump. I don't think this is going to derail them whatsoever. Some people seem to think it's the end of the world for Golden State. I don't really understand that. And then some people think they are definitely vulnerable. I mean, listen, everyone is vulnerable to some degree. But I still think they are too talented. But derailing or going off on a tangent of my topic, he's never played with these guys, and he's coming off an injury, which means the Cavs are going to have to adjust again. As a team, it's not like one or two players have to adjust. Those 4 guys, the news guys, have to adjust to having Kevin Love inserted into the lineup, and Kevin Love's got to adjust to all 4 of them, as well as how LeBron plays with them and how that may affect him. So there's a lot of things to work out, and not a lot of time. They're far from ready, for sure, and I think it's going to take LeBron James being historically great for them to make it through the East unscathed, or even close to where they were last year. And I have real concerns that they won't make it out of the East. They're currently 28th in defensive efficiency. They're 27th in opponent shooting percentage, 22nd in opponent second half points scored, 24th in opponents 2-pointers, 29th in opponents 3-pointers. There isn't a single championship contender in the bottom 15. So I don't. If they're coasting, then they are really coasting. Okay. Now there's a difference between struggling in the regular season and then flipping the switch and being great versus coasting in the regular season and flipping the switch and being great. And they don't seem to be coasting. Okay. So, speaking of Cleveland, let's move on to the Browns. The Cleveland Browns were busy this weekend. Made a couple of moves, got a quarterback, got another receiver, a good receiver in Jarvis Landry. So I want to talk about Cleveland really quick. My concerns are this. First, will Josh Gordon stay healthy? Will he stay on the field? Not healthy, but will he stay on the field? I guess healthy from a mental standpoint, right? And I wish him the best because I want him to do well. He was one of my favorite receivers when he came into the league. He won me some money in fantasy that year. He came back in like week 8 or week 6 or whatever it was, week 10. I think he only played like 6 games or 8 games, and I mean he was a monster. And he steps on the field last year and immediately produced. So he is a beast, no doubt about it. Okay. I just hope he stays on the field for 16 games. But I have faith in him. I'm rooting for him too. And so let's accept that he is for now. They acquired Jarvis Landry, who I believe is very underrated. I think people don't give him the respect that he deserves as a top receiver in this league. He is a slot guy, but he has hands for days. And he's always open, right? Led the league in catches with 112, more than Larry Fitzgerald, more than Michael Thomas, Antonio Brown, Julio, so on. And he had Jay Cutler as quarterback for what that's worth. And he's not super explosive. He does. If you look at his yards per catch or yards per reception, it's not off the charts, right? Because he's not a guy. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. If he gets away from you, he's gone. But he's not a guy that is going to. He doesn't go deep very often. Like he's not one of those guys. Not a burner or anything like that. But he is super reliable. Super reliable. And I love him. I wanted Tennessee to sign him, but I don't know if they even explored that. That would have been nice. It would have been one less thing that they had to worry about. Was a pass catcher from Mariota. But it is what it is. Wish him the best in Cleveland. I think he'll do well. They got Tyrod Taylor, who's at least a competent quarterback. He's the question mark, if you ask me. And I guess for most people, because I think he's a solid starter, and I think he can be a great player for Cleveland. But I don't think they got him as the future, I guess, the long-term solution. Not for them. And I don't know. That may be unfair to say. From Cleveland's perspective, you never know. Maybe they did. I don't think that they did. I think they're going to take a quarterback in the draft, and sort of groom him behind Tyrod. Now, who they take is the question. There's people saying that they might take Josh Allen first. For me, I don't think they are solid, or I don't think they are solid on any of the quarterbacks as a starter, not day one. Because if they did, I don't think they would have gotten Tyrod Taylor. That obviously wouldn't make sense if they're going to get him as the day one starter in the draft. Why bring in Tyrod Taylor? So that's what it tells me. And so if that is the case, then I think they should take the best available player. Now, who that is depends on who you ask. To me, I think the can't miss player is Minkah Fitzpatrick. But Cleveland, you don't screw this up, okay? You have a starter at quarterback, but you haven't fixed the problem, all right? Because if you plan to draft a guy, and maybe they don't plan to draft a guy, maybe that's why they got him, I don't know. But if they plan to draft a guy, then you still need to draft a quarterback. And if there's a guy that you're sold on, take him at 1 because he may not be there. Now, if I were them, what I would do is I take one of the top, take your pick. You can Chubb, Barkley, Fitzpatrick, whoever you want to pick. That's not a quarterback. I would take one of those guys number 1 overall. Get the best available player. And then take a quarterback at 4. Not that that's rocket science, but that's just the way I look at it. But again, I think now on the converse, I think if there is a guy you are sold on, then that's who you should take at 1. Because you don't want to miss on Carson Wentz and Deshaun Watson again. And if you feel like you have that guy sitting in front of you, you should take him. So, yeah, listen, I'm no NFL GM. I don't sit in the draft rooms, but I think that makes the most sense. But that's just me. If you wait at 4, who's to say who will be remaining in that position? That's to be determined. And you could have all of them on the board. The Giants are at 2 and the Colts are at 3. There's a chance you could have all of them on the board. Maybe the Giants take Fitzpatrick. I don't know. Maybe they take Fitzpatrick. Maybe the Colts take Barkley. Or maybe however it shakes up. They could all still be on the board. So you could get, Sam Darnold and Chubb or Barkley or Darnold and Fitzpatrick. I mean that would be a smash hit if you got both of them. That'd be a win-win. I think that'd be one of the best top 5 picks you could make in recent years. I mean, I have to go back through the draft, but for one team to get 2 players in the top 5 of that capacity, that'd be pretty huge. So you could potentially end up with 2. I think if they do it that way and they end up with one of those guys and they end up with, say, Barkley or Fitzpatrick, someone like that, I think Barkley for them would make sense because while their running backs I think are solid, they're not at least what you expect Barkley to be. I'm not going to say that Barkley is because we don't know. But from what we expect him to be, if you get him coupled with Jarvis Landry and Josh Gordon, all of a sudden you just got born into a plethora of weapons at the skill position. And you could turn that offense into something explosive next year with those 3 guys. But, of course, that all depends on if you have the right quarterback. And Cleveland has screwed that up time and time again. So we'll see. But that's all I got for this episode. Just put out a lot, but I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.